Thank you very much for joining us, Mr. Hardeep Singh Puri, on this platform of the 10th edition of the India Economic Conclave. And it's always been a pleasure to have you. The energy sector needs energy from you, and these days after election results, there's a spring in everybody's step in the government, and there's a lot of energy going in there. Question, is this green energy? Is this no emission energy? Does energy really come in from the political performance of a party, and has there been an upswing after a moderate performance in the Lok Sabha elections?
On my way here from Parliament, I was reflecting on what possibly you would start with. And I came to the conclusion in my mind that now that the Lok Sabha results have been overtaken by the performance in Maharashtra and us getting 7 out of 9 of the seats in the by-polls in Uttar Pradesh, perhaps you might not. But since you asked the question, let me tell you. Energy is the lifeline of any system. Now there's Bharat Mandapam, with which my ministry was associated when I was Urban Affairs Minister. It's a world-class building along with the Yasho Bhumi. I think these constitute world-class facilities for events like this. But you brought some energy by putting all this on the walls. Look, if an economy is performing well, you will see that energy consumption will be on the rise. Is the political system any different? I would say no. But that is a different kind of energy, but it's all adding up to the same challenge. No matter what we are dealing with, the economy, the political system, you need availability, affordability, and sustainability. So it's all there. I have had the good fortune of seeing many systems in transition. Today, I think where India stands and the narrative that is out there, you and I don't notice it because you're part of this continuity and the change which is taking place. But if you want to come back to the political system for a minute, let me say, I see the following happening. One, the India alliance, which we were saying for a long time, it has fault lines, it has strains, it is collapsing. Today I would say it has collapsed. The Congress party, which is very keen on providing leadership to the India alliance, finds itself a junior partner in most of the states. And as we go forward, there are not only other claimants for leadership of the India alliance, but I think more than that, the alliance will be put to test in terms of its internal cohesiveness. But more than that, Navika ji, I think wherever a kind of electoral situation that develops, like in Haryana or Maharashtra, they will find it very difficult to move forward. Why? Because the Bharatiya Janata Party, even if you look at the original Lok Sabha results, I remember clearly that the vote percentage had just marginally declined. But they lost a lot of seats because of the peculiar ground dynamics. Today, I find that the core vote of the Bharatiya Janata Party is not only steady but growing. And whenever you have contests of this kind developing, you will see clean sweeps by the BJP.
Well, clearly, the recent performance, a third-time victory at the center, a third-time victory in Haryana, a third-time victory in Maharashtra, clearly put you in a situation where nobody can contradict or question the positions you take.
No, the contradiction they will try. You see, if you fail at something, if you fail in an examination, you will blame the examiner for sending you questions which are out of the syllabus. If you fail in an election, then in the seats that you win, you will say, okay, that was my good performance, but the seats you lose, you blame something called an EVM. So they will go on. But you know, I was sitting through Parliament today listening to the discussion. I shouldn't say what I'm going to say there. But they were the demanders. What is it that they're trying to say? Today, all over the country, you know, there was an old Hegelian saying, genius lies in identifying yourself with a principle. What is it that the Congress party wants to identify? What do they stand for? If it is, at the end of the day, caste census or something like that, let them spell it out.
Mr. Hardeep Puri, I also am speaking to you at a time when geopolitics across the world is in a state of tumult. Look at the Middle East, look at Central Asia. After, Ukraine, Russia, and we spoke at that time how India navigated through those waters. Now we have Syria going that road again. How is this going to impact our dependence that exists on fossil fuels and our strategy on how to handle this?
First, in terms of our dependence on fossil fuel, I'm very happy with the words you use, dependence on. We are today 85% dependent on crude oil imports and roughly about 50% dependent on natural gas for imports. We also import LPG, but that's separate. The good news is that there is no shortage of energy in the world. That in spite of all the turbulence, etc., more and more energy is coming onto the market. There is a lot of energy, Navikaji, which is coming from the Western Hemisphere. I mean, Brazil, Guyana, Canada, United States. United States produces 13 million barrels a day, and even before the celebration of democracy there, I had anticipated they'll put another 1 million barrels a day there, and it's coming. Suriname. Middle East, many of the OPEC Plus are cutting back on production, they say temporarily. But in spite of all those actions, there's more than enough crude oil available in the world. For a consumer like India, which today I think we're 5.4 million barrels a day, which will go on by 2030 to 6 and then 7 million barrels a day is what we will be consuming. There's enough oil. And the good news is our domestic E&P is for the first time, after a long time, beginning to grow up. So I don't anticipate issues of availability. That's the first part of the trilemma. When it comes to affordability, yes, if there is really an outbreak of hostilities, like if some major trade routes and shipping routes get blocked, then the seaborne commerce would have to come by a more circuitous route. Freight rates would go up, insurance rates would go up. I don't see that happening. I think everyone involved has a stake in peace, and I think it's in everybody's interest to ensure that whatever leveraging you can do, you do it. I'm not in the business of making forecasts, but if you were in that business, there are a lot of people saying that the conflict in Ukraine and Russia, give it another 2-3 months, and you'll find solutions. Even in the Middle East, I see welcome signs of people willing to talk, etc. But as I said, we will be able to navigate. The government of the Prime Minister, led by Prime Minister Modi, has demonstrated its ability to navigate through crisis, not once, but on several occasions. And I'm more than confident we can do so going forward. But I think the situation will get better, not worse.
Let me also ask you, green energy solutions. How much progress have we made in that direction? And are we looking at any substantial reduction in our dependence on fossil fuels at this stage, given the fact that every other day we see some electric vehicles coming in, some technology changing in various parts? Is there a time frame to when this will impact significantly our dependence?
No, that's a absolutely brilliant question. But I think in order to ease our understanding, we'd have to put a timeline on it. The transition is not a switch which you can put on and off. You have to establish fairly expensive infrastructure also to make the transition. Going forward, let's say by the time we are a 100-year-old country, as an independent country, we're a 7,000-year-old civilization, but I see our dependence on traditional fossil fuel coming down considerably. It would be around 30% or so. On wind, solar, green will go up, and you will have a mix. Now, what I'm saying might startle you in the sense that for the next 20 years, we will need fossil fuels. But that's not my position. A few years ago, all the do-gooders got the best of the argument and said, switch off fossil fuels totally. It can't be done. So today what we make sure is that you are increasing. So I think the test lies in what we are achieving on the green front. And there my submission to you is ethanol. We have gone from 1.4% blending in 2014. We wanted a target of 10% by 2022 November. We did it 5 months in advance. We have a target of 20% by 2030. We're going to do it by next year, by 2025. We brought that forward. Compressed biogas, we are moving forward. There are, I think, 80 plants under commissioning. There are 70 there already. Again, we have a long distance to go. CNG, we are doing very well. The idea is to take the importance of gas, natural gas, in our energy mix from 6% to 15%. We are beginning to move, but we still need to get there. And I think that is work in progress. We need to do more on that. But I think green hydrogen is where the real success will come. If you talk to people, I saw a statement by a very major entrepreneur, he says that electric vehicles are the answer, not fuel cell green hydrogen vehicles. Possibly true, that's a point of view. But if my grid is not green, then electric vehicles are much better because they are much less toxic. They're at a transition point. But at the end of the day, to achieve sustainability, we will need to have green hydrogen. And we're doing very well on that. I don't go by the estimates which industry puts out, because what you require for green hydrogen are, one, the capacity to produce clean solar energy at a reasonable price. We've demonstrated. We brought it down from 25 cents a unit to 3 cents, and you need electrolyzer. And we're doing well on both fronts. Both the PLI scheme had a provisioning for 19,700 crores for electrolyzers, fully utilized. And as we go along, the private sector has done very well. Pump storage facilities are coming up. I see in the next 2 or 3 years, India being right up front on the global stage on green hydrogen. And that will what is going to make a mistake. Let me conclude this by saying we spend something like $150 billion a year on the import of energy. Now, if you were to bring down the price of green hydrogen from the current 5.5, and you bring it down to say 2.5 or so, there'll be a public clamor to move that money from import of fossil fuels to the production of green hydrogen. And because what does a hydrogen bus produce? Water vapor on the air, as against the toxicity which comes from the, other
emissions.
vehicles. Yeah.
Let me also ask you, exploration activities in India, whether it is for petroleum or natural gas, hasn't quite lived up to the expectations that existed maybe a decade ago.
You're putting it mildly. It hasn't lived up. I'm much more strident in my comments. I say that there is neglect, criminal neglect has taken place. Look, let me simplify it. If you were to drill one well onshore, on land, it would cost you about $4 or $5 million. If you were to drill offshore, it would cost you $100 million. Now, typically, if you have a big discovery, you drill 16 wells, you get nothing. Suddenly on the 17th, you strike oil. That's the story of Guyana. But the good news is that we did not have earlier an ecosystem. Now we have an ecosystem which is conducive for E&P. Let me give you three things. In 2016, we went from a production sharing arrangement to a revenue sharing arrangement. What does that mean? You come, help us prospect. You don't need to make any investment also. We will compensate you in case you didn't get anything for seismic surveys offshore, as we have spoken to, let's say, giving you an example, Petrobras of Brazil. If we strike oil, you'll have the right of first refusal. Secondly, there were areas, we have a sedimentary basin of about 3.5 million square kilometers. Navika ji, 1 million square kilometers was no-go area. You couldn't go there because either the Navy or the Coast Guard or the DRDO had a difficulty with it. Today, that's been opened up. Now, in the open acreage licensing policy, OALP round 9, which we did some time ago, 38% of the bids have come in this 1 million square kilometer. And if I am successful, and I'm sure I will be, if we get the new draft bill through the Lok Sabha next week, then we will do OALP 10th round with the new legislation in place. So today, the outreach to the 4 or 5 in the world whom you have to talk to is come. It's not the old India. Here, we will partner with you. We will jointly explore. And today, our oil majors are also partnering with the private sector here, with the global private sector. So, if you started by saying that the E&P has not fared as well, not taken off, you're absolutely right. But today, I would go much further and say that was the situation prior to 2014. You know, the period between 2006 and 16 or 14, 15 was called the dull decade. They didn't do anything. Because what happened is that the private sector did some gold plating on issues then, and then there was hue and cry and scandal. So as a result, all activity came to a stop. That's not the case now. Now, ONGC has a discovery off the coast of Kakinada, and they are going to be producing 45,000 barrels a day there pretty soon. I think it's already reached about 25, 30,000 barrels a day. Also gas. So both on the oil and gas front, it's a very different situation now.
So let me ask you, how much strides have you made over the last 10 years? Because whenever a question is asked of a minister in the BJP government, it always blames the decade of 2004 to 14. I want to ask you, in quantitative terms, where were we in 2014 in terms of new exploration activities that were happening, and where are we now? What is the additional investment that you've got?
No, it's a very simple thing. It's not just for E&P, for everything. As I said, nothing happened between 2006 for about 10 years or so. When Modi ji formed the government and the reforms really started in all the sectors by June 2015, they came in there. In 2016, we went from production sharing to revenue sharing, okay? And all the other actions which have taken place. Earlier, there were people here, they pulled out. Now we have to not only revise our situation, like 1 million square kilometers opened up, new law coming into it, and all that. What does an investor require? An investor requires reasonable degree of stability and predictability. That's not that you call him here, they make an investment, they find oil and they'll say, this is my sovereign right, I take it over. I have a lot of difficulty with some states just now. ONGC struck oil in Ashoknagar in West Bengal. And I think when they struck this oil in 2018 or so, it was one well and the area was about 4 square kilometers. What's called a petroleum mining lease has still not been forthcoming from the state government. After that, they made 2 or 3 other discoveries. That area now has become 99 square kilometers from 4 or 5. But for some strange reason, the state government is not moving. Now the oil is there, the gas is there, it's there. My calculation, and I looked at this in the context of a parliament question because I was answering a start question. We've written 15 letters. The ministry, the Director General of Hydrocarbon, they won't move. Now, whom are they depriving of revenue? Under the system that we have, the federal system, they stand to make something like 25,000 crores, 8,000 crores on this field itself. And that would be the money coming to the state. But they don't move. Now, we have to face a lot of problems. I think overall in the country, the realization that this is a resource which you will be dependent on and from which you can get revenue is there. Some states are notably slow.
So let me ask you, who's really responsible for this collapse of the federal system as it existed? The question is, if you look at Parliament, you're saying you're extremely hopeful that next week you'll pass legislation in the Lok Sabha. The way people of India are looking at it very cynically is, यहाँ काम तो होता नहीं है, यहाँ तो एक दूसरे की खिंचाई होती है.
No, legislation pass karwana is something which is different from parliament function. We know how to get the legislation passed. That's not the issue. I mean, you can try and disrupt.
You can chuck the opposition out and pass.
No, we don't keep them out. You see, I mean, this is a sovereign choice whether you want to wear a mask or an armband or a jacket emblem outside the house and disrupt. You know, I think protest also reflects, the nature of the protest reflects the maturity level of the politics. All right. You have a problem with something that the government has done. I think the right thing to do is come inside the house and debate it. They were demanders for this discussion on the Constitution. As I said, I sat there for 2.5 hours. I didn't see anything. If this is what it was about, let them come and discuss it. Now,
are you saying the opposition, read Rahul Gandhi, Congress party, what you will, is not mature?
No, I'm not saying they're not mature. I would say that, let me phrase it carefully, that maturity has been in the works for a while, and I haven't seen it yet. Now, if you need to protest against...
You're talking about Mr. Kharge or Mr. Rahul Gandhi, please specify.
I don't take names individually. If I make a statement and they think the size of the cap fits them, they're happy to wear it, whoever wants to wear it. I am basically of the opinion that when you go back to your electorate, today I heard somebody make a comment, ye ho gaya, wo ho gaya. And I think one of my colleagues, I was sitting in the Lok Sabha, said, bhai, kuch to hua hai na, third time we have come back. We may be a little disappointed in the sense that we didn't get the clinching number, but we are still, in pre-poll alliance, we are at 290, which is way beyond what is required for a working majority, for a clear majority. I think that some of the goalposts that they have are getting mixed up. And unless they sit down and rework their sums, as I said, people will ask, what does the Congress party stand for? I have yet to come across an issue on which they are very serious. It's a shoot and scoot policy. One day they will take up one issue, the other day they will take up another issue. When it came to a discussion on resources from the center to the state, there is a way about going about it. There are funds that the central government places at your disposal for use. But by doing halla in parliament, come and talk about it.
But everything they do can't be wrong, and everything that you do can't be right. There has to be a midway somewhere.
That was never my case, that everything we do is right. I think we are a political party which over a period of time has grown because it has the ability to introspect. We look at our own performances, and UP and Maharashtra is a case in point, or Haryana. I mean, I remember interacting with you and saying, what happened? I always saw these elections differently, Haryana in particular. I said, wherever we have development to show, and the central government, whether it's a Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, it has a big impact even in a place like Maharashtra. Big impact all these schemes have even in the smaller states. So we will project good governance as good politics, delivery of goods and services, and they will project what I call the mantra of freebies. I'm not saying that freebies up to a point. After all, during the pandemic, we also handed out 3 meals of dry ration in a day, which is continuing. But that cannot be the sum total of the political message you're taking to people.
Batenge to katenge. Is that really development politics that you are doing?
You can,
vote jihad, dharam yudh, are these points of development politics?
You are picking up one slogan here and there, and therefore I have a long list of slogans. I think you're better served by...
Tell me one slogan that you remember, as everybody remembers, batenge to katenge.
No, batenge to katenge.
Development wala slogan bata dijiye.
No, the issue is you take the slogan in a particular way. Where did this negative narrative come from? I remember even in 2014, later, etc. What kind of, language was being used against a democratically elected prime minister? What is it that they're trying to do today? They're trying to take around and take somebody's image and add it to that. Is that mature politics? You're looking for a piece of evidence somewhere in some court in some foreign country, makes a statement. Come into the house, let's have a discussion. And today, as I said, this discussion is going to be on tomorrow also. It's probably not appropriate for me to give you my comments on what is said in Parliament. That's not. I'm talking about the overall direction and maturity. There are going to be elections in other states. There are fundamental changes taking place in the country. I mean, Article 370, reservation for, women. We're going from women-centered development to women-led development, one nation, one poll. There's some fundamental changes taking place. The opposition, instead of participating in the debate, it's a know this, know that.
So the one nation, one poll decision taken in the cabinet yesterday, will it be a bill brought into Parliament?
That's not for me. That's if you had Kiran here, maybe you could rightfully ask that question. I will not speculate on that. But the fact that the cabinet took the decision yesterday means that the next stage would be prepared, timing, etc. They will decide.
Let me also ask you. We are a nation right now. Before one nation, one election becomes a reality, we are a country where we are always in a state of campaigning for elections. Delhi elections around the corner now. What do you envisage? This is an area where you've been on the defensive. The BJP has not won an election in Delhi for the last, 30 years? What do you expect?
We'll win this time. And we'll win decisively.
Many people are saying this will end your winning streak.
I don't want to ask you whom will you vote for. I mean, with this kind of neglect of basic amenities, you look at the level of pollution in the river, the air pollution, etc., etc. And each one of them, the Aam Aadmi metamorphed from wearing a muffler, sitting in what is it called, a wagon R car, and he's moved into Sheesh Mahal. That's the transformation of the man. Secondly, each one of them has been involved in some, I don't want to get into Sharab ka Gotala, I'm not getting into it. But is that the image of the governing group in Delhi? I think there's a severe credibility crisis. And the fact that it's a severe credibility crisis comes out from the fact that out of the 20 candidates that they named in the last list, Navika ji, 13 were imported. So
आप भी imports तो बहुत करते हो, fossil fuels के भी, candidates के भी.
नहीं, देखिए डेमोक्रेसी में आप पटपरगंज में रहना चाहेंगे या जीके में रहना चाहेंगे, you can move your residence to wherever you want, and why should you be?
पर दूसरों के imports पे फिर आपको कहना भी नहीं चाहिए क्योंकि आप भी बहुत import करते हो.
मेरे को कोई आपत्ति नहीं है. They must import, खास करके अपने candidates नहीं हो, but it just shows that they are trying to beat the anti-incumbency by changing the face of the candidate. It's a limited point I'm making. Limited. It's not our situation. Our situation is we've grown.
कैलाश गहलोत आपने भी तो import किया है.
नहीं हमने नहीं भाई, we are the largest political party in India. हमारे यहाँ आप आना चाहेंगे, आप कहेंगे कि मेरा my commitment to the development process, I think I can fulfill that only by being part of the BJP. कुछ आते हैं, कुछ चले भी जाते हैं. भाई ये राजनीति में चलेगा. This is part of good democratic politics.
पर आप इतनी अच्छी पॉलिटिक्स करते हैं तो नए लोगों को सामने लाना चाहिए. आपकी पार्टी, बहुत से इंसाइडर्स कहते हैं कि आधी इस पार्टी की है, आधी उस पार्टी की है. ये पार्टी विद द डिफरेंस डिफरेंट पार्टी से बनी है.
देखिए, कौन क्या कहता है एटसेट्रा, ये एनेक्डोटल, इससे वी विल नॉट बी एबल टू गेट वेरी फार. मैं आपको दो चीजें कहना चाहता हूं विच आई से विद डिग्री ऑफ कन्विक्शन. वन is this is the only party in the country where Parivarvad is not a criteria. Number one. I was sitting in Parliament today looking across the political spectrum, and believe me, that is Parivarvad. Okay. I'm not saying you have three members of a family, each can be in the Parliament because they are brilliant in their own right. I have no issue with that. You have another member, एक चाचा का बेटा है, खुद हो, अपनी पत्नी जी हैं, I don't mind all that. But where is it ultimately? Have you ever come across a BJP unit where whose son you are or etc. You take our top leadership. Take the top leadership. With one exception, the person's father happened to be in the party. All the others are completely on merit, who made their way up. They were part of the Parivar. They had believed in a particular ideology. This is a fundamental. This is one. The second, it is still a party. I know a lot of people say, nahi, aapne ye theek nahi kiya. I would be the last to contest that. But it's based on a value system. Whereas it is completely devoid of value system in most other cases. Again, I don't want to get into individual cases. So to be a member of the BJP or the BJP larger family, there is a certain premium on that. Yes, we may have made a mistake taking some people in because of exigencies of circumstances. And they
Ajit Pawar?
No, I'm not. He's done very well in the elections, etc. I'm not getting into individuals at all. I would say that sometimes your perception of who is good or bad, maybe किसी को आप अगर हमारे पार्टी के साथ, परिवार के साथ 30 साल से जुड़े हुए हैं, आप समझते हैं कि मेरा हक है इस समय to get a ticket. Somebody else comes in for a variety of reasons, but it's done very clinically. So I think you are seeing the beginnings of when you are in office for 10 years and you're looking at the next 5 years with confidence, whereas on the other side, the fault lines means that those parties are actually, that alliance is collapsing. That's the difference.
But why would you bring into Parliament the issue of calling Rahul Gandhi a traitor, connections with Soros? You're the party in government. If you have any material on them, you can proceed on legal basis against them.
I think that's a separate process. You know, when you're in the business of hurling invectives at each other, both sides it come. If you see
so it's just hurling invectives.
What do you say that? I mean, I'm not going to get into a discussion whether a certain amount of resource, a large amount, has brought it on itself to encourage democracy in the rest of the world. I was in the UN, I've got a book on this, where at one stage during the Obama administration, and they said that the Arab street is yearning for democracy. And you brought in, what happened in Libya, country collapsed. What happened in Syria, country collapsed. Matter went to the Security Council. You got an authorization from the Security Council for use of all means necessary, use of force in Libya. Syria, where Security Council got divided. But there are a lot of people in the world who want to bring in democracy. आप ये देखिए एक तरफ कंपेंडियम ड्रॉप करिए, कौन कंट्रीब्यूटर है, उसका रिसिपिएंट कौन है. अगर आपके पार्टी के साथ, आपके परिवार के साथ जो फाउंडेशंस है, they are receiving resources from these people, you should yourself introspect. बाकी लोग तो यही कहेंगे, और क्या कहेंगे, क्या इसके वो हो, उसके वो हो, वो क्या, वो तो कहेंगे. अगर आप किसी को कुछ कहोगे तो they will retort by saying.
So it's rhetoric at the end of the day.
I didn't say it's rhetoric. This is what happens. If you hurl something at someone and वो क्या कहते हैं, people living in glass houses should not
throw stones.
ये अपना stone अपने glass house में लग गया इनको.
So do you see an end to the confrontation in Parliament? Because Policy debates, I think, have become a thing of the past. Maybe अब ड्रीम सीक्वेंस बॉलीवुड स्टाइल में आया करेंगे क्योंकि प्रेजेंट में तो दिखते नहीं है. There is, don't you find, a dearth of quality debate on issues of, for example, the theme of this conclave, India fast track to the top 3. Is there a debate on this? Is there a consensus? Is there room for a consensus? Is there a conversation? Is there any communication? Or do you want to walk this road alone?
No,
Your way or the highway?
No, it's the very thing. You can have a theme in the India economic conclave on how we've become the 5th largest economy. We are going to be the 3rd largest economy very soon. You can have that. But that is what is creating a sense of unease in our friends. Because this is the real India. This is an India with all the global turbulence. You are still growing at 6.5%. All right. If one quarter the results are slightly less, they start rejoicing. Arey, kam ho gaya. Arey bhai, kam hua. Agli bari, agle quarter mein badhega bhi. So this is those people. I am very happy to have this. When you see the debate taking place in Parliament, this is what the Treasury benches will actually talk about. They are the ones who are feeling uncomfortable with it. So I don't think there's any agreement. I'm glad you timed this India Economic Conclave at a time when they are wanting to have the discussion on the Constitution. Because I think the Constitution is something sacred. The Constitution is not only, remember this Constitution was drafted by visionaries after 190 years of colonial domination. And they produced the blueprint for India's economic, political and social growth. And the guys who are talking about the Constitution are the only ones who in June 1975 tried to kill democracy by imposing the emergency and curtailing civil liberty. So inki baaton ko sun ke thoda man behla lena chahiye. But I think India is moving ahead, and moving ahead from what, a $4 trillion economy to a $8 trillion and $10 trillion economy. That's the real India. These guys are misfits there.
Well, the opposition is a misfit in India. It is a traitor in India. Well, those are strong words. But Mr. Hardeep Puri, let me also ask you, again another election. Are we going to see prices of petroleum products stable for a bit, और उसके बाद जोर का धक्का धीरे से लगेगा?
I have answered this question many times, but
we're always, whenever we speak, there is an election around the corner.
Your emotional attachment, I keep telling you, prices of petrol and diesel at the bunk, India is the only country where over the last 3 years they've come down. Number one. Number two, the price level has nothing to do with an election in India. The price of petrol at the bunk is determined by the international price of a barrel of crude, the cost of insurance, freight, the exchange rate, the refining cost, margin, dealer's commission. तो आपको तो स्वागत करना चाहिए इस बात का कि ग्लोबल प्राइसेस ऊपर गई हैं. मोदी जी ने 2 बार, he cut the excise duty in November 21, May 2022, and once later. It has nothing to do with the election. We did it because you have a prime minister who is genuinely committed to the welfare of the consumer. That's a moral thing with him. So we brought the cost of energy down. हाँ, इसमें हमारे OMCs ने थोड़ी इनकी ठुगाई हुई है. In the case of gas, I think they lost 28,000 crores earlier. We were able to compensate them only 22,000 crores. Then when it came to petrol, they lost money. We got some provisioning done. फिर वो बातों में रह गया. This time gas में, yes, I think there's under recovery. Navika ji, the very fact that I have been through this session of Parliament, none of my questions, you see, when there is a lot of, excitement, you get starred questions in every session, you get calling attention motion. The energy story is one of the better stories. And I think the Modi government deserves full praise for maintaining availability, bringing the prices down, and doing a very good job in sustainability also.
The other charge that is made against you is that the Ujjwala scheme, which started with a lot of fanfare, somewhere lost steam in the middle. Log वापस भरवा नहीं रहे हैं. All kinds of political charge.
Navika ji, since you are a world famous anchor, I don't expect you to be going into your kitchen and using Ujjwala. But I can tell you an average household, plus where you live, there must be piped gas.
Yes,
But,
there is.
Yeah, but you must be having our average per family. First, let me give you the number of connections. In 2014, total number of gas connections in the country was 14 crore. Today, it is 33 crores. Ujjwala started in 2016. Today, Ujjwala has 10 crores 33 lakh connection. Now, if you think that one connection serves one household, and on an average, a household has 4 or 5 people, which means the entire population has been covered. In fact, our Ujjwala saturation is 110-115%. Now I come to the most important thing. The average is 4 point some cylinders per connection. उससे ज्यादा तो यूज नहीं होते. हम उज्ज्वला में एक फैमिली को 12 सिलेंडर तक देते हैं, पर 4 इज द एवरेज. उसमें कुछ लोग हैं जिन्होंने सिलेंडर नहीं लिया या एक लिया. उसके कई कारण है. यू टेक अ सिलेंडर इन धनबाद, नेक्स्ट डे यू मूव एंड माइग्रेट टू आसनसोल और यू गो टू मुंबई एंड यू मे नॉट. बट देयर ऑल्सो वी हैव closed about 4 crores. So the Ujjwala picture in terms of number of connections and in terms of average cylinders is a very good story. I've answered this in Parliament a few days ago. Starts question number 5. I'll send you the answer.
Well, Hardeep Puri, what would you like to say to Mamata Banerjee today on this forum? Clearances for exploration. Would you make a request to her? Have you done so?
मैडम, मैं तो उससे बहुत आगे निकल गया हूँ. क्लियरेंसेस फॉर एक्सप्लोरेशन छोड़ दो. वो 8,000 करोड़ की रिसोर्स आपके पास बैठा है, उसको निकाल के वो 8,000 करोड़ आप वेस्ट बंगाल के डेवलपमेंट पे यूज कीजिए. मैं तो वो कह रहा हूँ. बट आई थिंक शी इज ट्राइंग टू वर्क आउट इन आवर माइंड कि वो राहुल गांधी जी से लीडरशिप इंडिया अलायंस की लेनी है या नहीं लेनी. आई थिंक दैट मस्ट बी होल्डिंग इट बैक.
And what would be your message to Priyanka Gandhi Vadra, who's debuted in Lok Sabha today with her maiden speech?
No, I always congratulate newly elected members, and especially when they made, and this was a debut in a discourse on the Constitution. So, I mean, she has a long way ahead. Whether there will be realignment in terms of leadership within the Congress party, I don't know, and frankly, that's not for me to comment on. But I wish her the best.
And any message to Mr. Rahul Gandhi?
I think that leadership potential has been a while in developing, and I think maybe the time has come for that leadership potential to be developed fully.
Well, on that note, we hope the message is taken. And Mr. Hardeep Singh Puri, always a pleasure speaking with you. You take it on the chin, answer all the googlies that come your way. You're always a great sport, and that's what Punjabis are all about, I guess.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for joining me here at the India Economic Conclave.